because we've been driving back and forth on that road a few times, and we see people in vehicles that are not 4x4 vehicles.
Last time we saw someone in a minivan.
Right.
And we were in our truck.
And they stopped us to ask us, do you think we'll be okay?
Yeah.
And I was like,
no.
Let me tell you about this Top Gear episode.
This is the Exploring the National Parks podcast with Dirt in My Shoes. My name is Ash, and I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes. I think that the parks are best seen from the trail, and I'm here to make national park trip planning easy.
And I'm John. I carry the kids on the trails, I tell stories, and notice all the things that Ash doesn't care about much, like rocks.
Join us as we show you around America's spectacular national parks.
We're sharing our favorite places, fun facts, adventures, and misadventures.
And we'll even throw in a little trip planning.
Let's start exploring.
Today is cause for celebration, we think.
We believe so.
We have to record this episode in advance. A few weeks in advance.
Right.
And I'm still currently, as of this recording, still working through this project.
But it's a big deal.
But if you're listening to this today and I've met all my deadlines...
Which you will, you always do.
We are releasing the Canyonlands itinerary today.
Yes! Oh my gosh, this is just like Anchorman. This is a huge deal. We have so many leather-bound books and bookcases made of mahogany. This is just, if you catch the reference, this is huge.
I've never seen that movie.
No, I don't think that you would.
Yeah.
It is a Will Ferrell classic.
I do like Will Ferrell.
Yes.
But yeah, sometimes it's a little much for me. But anyway, we're releasing the Canyonlands itinerary today, as long as nothing happens between recording and release.
Yes, that's true. But I feel so excited because this is my favorite Utah National Park, and it feels like we waited till the end, and it's like we should have had this first. Why haven't we had a canyon? I love this place so much.
I'll tell you why, okay? Because Canyonlands is always an afterthought to Arches.
Correct.
Always, for everybody.
Right.
Like, nobody goes to Moab to go to Canyonlands except us.
I know. It's like from Hamilton when they introduced the three Schuyler sisters. It's like this
Peggy.
one and Peggy.
Yeah.
The youngest. So Canyonlands is the Peggy to Arches.
Yeah, so it's been a work in progress. Like, I've always been wanting to round out all the Utah parks with itineraries because a lot of people do go to all 5 in one trip.
Right, and they should.
And if you're already at Arches, you might as well go to Canyonlands. Like I said, it's kind of the afterthought, like, well, we're already here. Let's pop in there.
It's literally across the street.
But today we're going to change your mind so that it's not just the Peggy. We don't want this park to just be your Peggy. Okay?
Oh my gosh.
Because John is right. It's his favorite national park in Utah. It's also the largest national park in Utah. And it's very rugged and wild, and it just has a different feel than any of the other national parks we've talked about in Utah up to this point.
Right.
So
it's about time that we release an itinerary for Canyonlands National Park.
It really is. Okay, so if you're listening today and this itinerary has been released, you just go to dirtmyshoes.com. In the menu, there's something that says trip itineraries. Click on that. That's where you'll find all the itineraries that we have, including this Canyonlands one. But for the next couple of days, we will be running a 25% off sale on the Canyonlands itinerary. So whenever I release a new itinerary, I always put it on sale. This is the cheapest it will ever be. I never do that big of a discount on anything.
Even on your Black Friday sales, it's never 25% off.
It's not. But on my new releases, I do put them at a very deep discount. So it's a really cool time to jump in there and to grab it if you're interested. The other nice thing about this one is it's a 2-day itinerary, and so the price is much lower than some of my bigger, more complex parks. And so it's a really good chance for you to jump in and see what our itineraries look like.
Right.
And how they work and what they do at a lower price point. So a very good option. Also, a question I get a lot is, what if we're not planning on going here? Should we still buy it? You know, what if we don't have a trip planned? And I update these itineraries weekly. So It doesn't matter when you go. It doesn't matter when you buy it. It will all be updated for you.
Right. Exactly. If it's something that should be on your horizon, and hopefully over today's episode and the fun facts episode of Canyonlands, I will be able to convince you
Yeah.
that yes, you should go to Canyonlands.
Hey, we convinced people to go to Great Basin. I've been having a lot of comments from people. Great Basin, we recorded or released episodes a few months ago. And yeah, that's a pretty small unknown park. And people are like, wow, I didn't know that was there. We should go there. So we're going to do the same thing today for Canyonlands.
Yes.
It's not going to be your Peggy. It's going to be worth a trip all on its own.
Correct.
Okay, where should we start, John, while we explore Canyonlands National Park?
Okay, well, first we need to start with Seinfeld.
Okay, sure.
Because as I was preparing for this, we had a family party not too long ago, and I told everyone in advance that I was going to prepare a case for Professor Trelawney for Harry Potter, why she actually was a pretty good seer of the future. So I was doing the same thing with this. I wanted to prepare my case and make it so that people understand what I'm saying when I say Canyonlands is the best national park in Utah. But what it reminded me of was Seinfeld. And it's an idea that spans multiple seasons and kind of a theme in the show. It starts in the first season, and then you go all the way to the 6th season of Seinfeld. And what the idea is, it's Kramer's idea for a pizza place where you make your own pie.
Okay.
Kramer's all in. He wants to start a chain of restaurants where you can make your own pizza pie. And he tells Jerry about it, and he tells George about it, and he talks to some people on the phone. Anyways, the idea kind of goes away, but then it comes back. You get the dough, you get the sauce, you pound the dough, you get the cheese, the toppings, you make your own pizza pie, you throw it in the oven, and boom, a pizza just the way you want it. Kramer's always making the case. But Jerry and George hate the idea. They hate it. Kramer tells him, you have to have people who know what to do. You can't have people putting their arms in 600-degree ovens. It's a problem. Kramer tells him, listen, it's all supervised. And then Jerry says, with all due respect, I can't imagine anyone in any walk of life, under any circumstance, who wants to make their own pizza pie. And then in another scene, he continues, people don't love to make their own things. They love to have other people make things for them. That's why they're called restaurants. I always thought that this exchange, at least, was hilarious. Eventually, both George and Jerry, they hate the idea, but Kramer, Elaine, and Poppy, they seem to really like it. Pizza place where you get to make your own pizza. This, my friends, is Canyonlands in a nutshell. To me, it's a place where you get to make your own adventure. A place with all the raw elements that are ready for you to turn it into something awesome. Most national parks have majority paved roads and trails and fun stuff along those paved roads. Now, I don't have a stat on this, but guaranteed Canyonlands has more dirt roads and 4x4 roads, like miles of it, than paved roads.
For sure, because there's like hardly any pavement in this park.
Exactly.
Hardly any, and it's a huge national park.
Oh, yeah. And most of the adventure of this park is stuff you have to be prepared to put together for yourself.
Yeah.
But unlike Kramer's build your own pizza pie joint, there is no supervision to keep you from putting your arms inside a 600-degree oven. Going from like Bryce Canyon to Canyonlands is like going from a playground made in 2024 to a playground made in 1982.
With the death slide.
Exactly. You can have a lot of fun in a 2024 playground, but you can probably reach 40 miles an hour going down that metal slide.
Yes. We had a playground like that growing up in the nearby park, and it was awesome. I still remember that huge metal death slide that was like, how did we not fall off that thing?
That was 175 degrees in the sunlight.
Yeah.
I agree with you, though.
Because when you show up to Canyonlands, if you're just going to stick to the paved roads, because you're used to a certain national park experience,
right?
Then it's not to say you won't love it. Like, we still love it.
Right.
And in fact, most of the main stuff to do and the stuff that I included in the itinerary and the stuff that is good for people of all ages and skills and abilities, you will find that along the pavement.
Right.
So by no means, like, do you need to show up here and be like, we have to go on huge adventures that are like way crazy and way beyond our comfort zones. You don't have to.
You don't have to show up in your Armageddon mobile.
No. But if you're willing to, there are some super awesome things you can do here that will just enhance the wildness of this national park. I think there aren't as many national parks that feel so wild.
Right.
Anymore. Like a lot of them are pretty well developed.
Oh, yeah.
Canyonlands is one of those that it really has not been touched hardly at all.
Mm-hmm.
It gives off like Alaska Park vibes where it's like, we're just out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody knows we're here. We could die out here.
It's true. It is the park that has both the 2024 playground equipment and the 1982 playground equipment.
Yeah.
So you have both the stuff that you're normally used to along the pavement, when you go to a regular national park, but you also have layers of adventure underneath it. And that's really what Canyonlands is super about, is the layers of adventure.
Well, I see what you did there, because it's canyons, layers.
Yes.
Got it.
There's so many layers to this park. It's like an onion, like Shrek.
Okay, so jumping in though, so Canyonlands has 3 different districts that are all separated. You can't get to one district from the other.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to purposely go to each district. And then it also has the river, which they consider another district.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. So of the 3 districts, we're going to talk about 2 today.
Mm-hmm.
Because the third is where you go to die if you don't have a lot of experience in this area.
We'll touch on it slightly, but there's really 2 main ones that people can go to without that Armageddon mobile.
Yeah, as a first-time visitor, you're most likely going to hit these 2 districts. So we'll focus our time there. But let's jump to the Island in the Sky district first, because this is the most popular part of Canyonlands.
Mm-hmm.
This is the part that is basically just across the street from Arches. And so if you're staying in Moab already to see Arches, it's likely that if you're going to go into Canyonlands, it's going to be to the Island in the Sky.
Yes, and the Island in the Sky district is so perfectly named. Like, what an adventurous name, by the way, Island in the Sky. It's so cool. And we talked about the layers for a second. This is the very top layer of the park. And the rivers, the way that Canyonlands is formed, you have these 2 rivers. You have the Green River coming in from the north. You have the Colorado River coming in from the east. And they come in and they converge here at Canyonlands.
Yes, they meet in Canyonlands, which is super cool.
Which is amazing. The river is carved out so much. And so it's carving down into canyons and it's tearing things out and things like that. And Island in the Sky is like the highest point in Canyonlands. And it's like you're on a castle in the sky.
Like they call it an island because it is surrounded by those rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Not completely. So more of a peninsula, but that just doesn't have the same ring to it. So
A peninsula in the sky.
So Island in the Sky, we're good with that name. So you've got the rivers on both sides of you while you're exploring this area. And so sometimes when you're in one part of the park, you're seeing the Green River and you're seeing the Colorado River at different viewpoints. It just depends on where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that they're actually seeing 2 different rivers because of the close proximity of these rivers as they're getting ready to converge.
And create extra Megazord River as it goes down and towards Lake Powell and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It gets so strong.
Yeah. So driving in to Island in the Sky, really the first thing you're going to hit is the visitor center after you go through the entrance station. But as you keep driving, you'll hit, I think this is the Island in the Sky's most famous hike. And a lot of people don't even know where this is or what it is. You've probably seen it on your laptop as like a background picture.
Yes.
This is the Mesa Arch Trail.
Oh man, it's so amazing.
Mesa Arch is not in Arches. It's in Canyonlands.
I know. I
and
love
it's in
it.
the Island in the Sky.
Which just goes to prove my point that Canyonlands has everything that all the other national parks have in Utah.
Canyonlands has some really good arches.
It's got everything. But yes, Mesa Arch is absolutely beautiful. You have seen it before. The view from Mesa Arch with the background and the arch coming over is usually at sunrise and sunset.
The arch is on the very edge of the cliff. And so behind the arch, it's just like a massive super terrifying drop. But then you have those layers of canyons. So you get those quintessential Canyonlands views behind this arch. It's hard to beat.
Oh,
it's absolutely gorgeous.
It is.
And the nice thing about it is it's a really short trail. It's a pretty easy trail. It won't take you very long, but it takes you to just this really cool spot with the Canyonlands framed in the background.
Right. It's like the most easily accessible, wonderful view.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I love it.
So definitely do that one. And then as you continue driving, you have the option. So the road will fork. And if you go to the right, then you're seeing the Green River part of stuff. So anything over there is, if you see the river, it's the Green River. And so that's like, well, there's the Green River Overlook. So that's kind of a giveaway. But that's where you'll also find like Upheaval Dome and Whale Rock and Aztec Buttes. Those are all some hikes that you can do in this area. They don't have river views, nor do they really have quintessential Canyonlands views.
Right.
It's more like you're hiking up onto something.
Some fun scrambling
Yeah.
that you can have. And, you know, when you're at Aztec Butte, you have a really cool opportunity to see some like Native American ruins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
There's
neat.
some granaries there and stuff. So we did that trail with our kids last time we were there. And it's not very long. And the first part of it is fine. You can get to the granaries just fine. But if you decide to actually go on top of the butte, I remember thinking like, what am I doing? Why did I sign up for this? It's kind of a scary trail because you're like scrambling a little bit and stuff.
It's really cool. You're kind of on all fours at certain points.
Yeah, if you've been following us for any amount of time, you know that I am a giant klutz and I have a really hard time staying on my feet when I hike.
So Ash scoots a lot.
I do. In fact, actually, we were just at Bryce Canyon hiking down the trails and they were icy. And we even had the yak tracks digging in and stuff, but like mine weren't working. I just looked over to John and I was like, I think I'm going to get on my butt. And he's like, no, don't. Like the red dirt will ruin all your clothes. And so he's like having to hold me while I go down and stuff. But that's like my initial reaction is I think I'll just get on my butt.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to make sure that I don't fall. So I'm just going to do the falling part voluntarily.
Exactly.
And then I'm going to work my way down. Eventually, I am going to share the story of the yak tracks in Bryce Canyon this time.
We'll talk about it later. Now is
today.
not the time.
Yes.
It's too fresh. But yes, that's how I am. So that's kind of how the Aztec Butte, it's not like I did it and I did it just fine. It's
Right.
not like I was totally freaked out, but I was definitely more on like my hands and knees
Yeah.
at some parts.
And if you fell, you wouldn't die. It would just hurt a lot.
Yeah. You just roll for a minute
Yes.
down the sharp rocks.
Yes. Tuck
So,
and roll.
yeah.
You'll be okay. But yes.
Anyway, so that's a fun one. But I would say in general, like most people don't really spend their time on that side, on the Green River side of Island in the Sky, because the longer road and the better views in general are if you don't take that right turn and you keep going straight and you're heading out to Grand Viewpoint
Right.
at the very end of the road. So if you're looking at a map, just look at a map and you'll know what we're talking about.
Yes.
But it's those Colorado River views on that side of the park that are, you know, more of the quintessential like canyon layering and river views and big expanses of Canyonlands.
It's true. And
So-
especially as you look kind of southeast, like you said, towards the Colorado River, what's so cool is you get to see the layering at work.
Yeah.
And so you'll be on the island in the sky, you're super up high, and then you've got a major cliff face, boom. And then the next layer comes out from the bottom of the cliff. And then boom, it just keeps dropping and keep dropping as you go further and further out. And sometimes it almost makes interesting shapes.
Well, and then you have the LaSalle Mountains, which are some of the highest mountains in Utah, back behind all these canyons
Yeah.
from this view. So not only are you getting those layers and occasionally a river view, it's pretty sneaky. It's kind of hard to see the river a
It's
lot
true.
of the time.
Because it's dug itself so deep
Yeah.
into the earth.
So it's there. You get these layerings, you get the river, you get the LaSalle Mountains. It's pretty spectacular.
Oh, definitely.
So there are a bunch of viewpoints along that stretch of the road as you're making your way out to Grand Viewpoint. And Grand Viewpoint at the very end of the road is the main one that people are trying to get to.
Right.
It's kind of the destination for everybody while they're here. And so you get out there. They do ranger programs there. There's a hike you can do from Grand Viewpoint to get to another viewpoint, or you can just stay at the viewpoint. So what I like to do when we're there is, yes, if we can catch a ranger talk, that's awesome. But we'll hang out at Grand Viewpoint and take in the views from there. And then we'll start the trail that leaves from there. And it just kind of takes you down the stairs and down to another layer where there's just not as many people. And it takes you right along the cliff's edge there. And so we'll walk along there and take pictures there. We have hiked the whole thing. I personally don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
But I do like to start it for a minute to get away from all the crowds at the main viewpoint and to get closer to the actual cliff's edge.
Yes, because that is my favorite part of Island in the Sky, is anywhere where I'm on the cliff's edge. And right here, I've had some amazing experiences along the cliff's edge, whether you're at Grand Viewpoint or some of these other places where you can kind of hike out to the edge. I love just like realizing there's no barrier here.
Yeah.
And you literally can peer over the edge and you can walk along the edge and realize, oh my gosh, I'm on this castle in the sky. I'm walking along the parapet, basically.
Right.
It's such a unique experience. And the red rock is beautiful.
You can see the Needles from here, which is the other district of Canyonlands that we'll talk about mainly. So you can see that from there as well. Your views are just so expansive from out here because you're seeing it's not 360 degrees. What would it be like?
You're at least 180. Yeah.
I mean, because you can go so far to the right and so far to the left with your view.
Right. Especially if you're at the very end.
Yeah.
At the farthest point of the mesa, you're all the way out there. Yeah, exactly. 270 for sure. I'm doing the math as I'm talking.
I was close.
I'm processing.
So anyway, so that's Grand Viewpoint. And then as you're working your way back towards the visitor center and back towards the park entrance in this area, then you're hitting all sorts of smaller viewpoints too. Like my favorites probably are Buck Canyon.
Right.
I love that one because it's such a weird shape. It looks like a fingers.
Like a messed up hand. Like, yeah, it really does.
Yeah, so that one's really cool. And then there's one more. I'm going to hold on that one, though, because we're going to talk beyond that one.
I know, I'm so excited.
But then my favorite hike probably along this stretch is Murphy Point.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
Murphy Point was a hidden gem for a long time. And unfortunately, they just made the parking lot way bigger. Before it was just like you drive off the road into a really like a dirty ditch almost, and you park there and then you hike and
you hope nobody hits your car.
Yeah, nobody knew about it. And we've been doing that hike for years. And then last year they closed down Murphy Point and they cleared it and put in a huge parking lot and a bathroom and
Yeah.
So now it's busier, but still worth it because you're traveling basically on this peninsula out towards Murphy Point, which just then has views on all sides.
Yeah. Well, what's so interesting is while you're driving along the main paved road here in Island in the Sky, a lot of times you're kind of in the middle of the island and you can't see the cliff's edge. And so if you didn't know where you were,
if you don't stop at the viewpoint,
you don't even know that you're on the edge of something super cool.
Yeah.
And so this Island in the Sky, and so for almost the entire portion of the hike of Murphy Point, like you're just walking and it feels like you're just on this flat ground with, you have no idea where you're heading.
Yeah, because you're in the middle of this outcropping.
Yeah.
And there are cliffs on both sides, but you're close enough to the middle that you can't really tell for most of it. Every once in a while, a really cool view will open up as you get closer to one side.
Yep.
But
then
yes, but then you get to the end and it's just like, boom, like Canyonlands.
Yes. My favorite experience. Ash and I have a kind of a rule. It's usually like if the weather is good, the first day that we get to a place, we have to go out and do something because sometimes the weather changes. Well, I remember there was this time we got to Canyonlands and the weather wasn't that good. But
the huge storm came through, which is normal during the summer. They get these big monsoon storms that roll through.
Exactly.
And so it scared everybody away.
Yes.
And we're like, It looks like, and we weren't stupid about it because you want to be really careful about lining and stuff. But we were in the hotel watching the storm. It was like dinner time.
Right.
And we saw the storm clear and we hadn't done anything yet that day because it was stormy. And we were like, we got to get out there.
Yes, I know. Everybody else was just calling the day. Nobody's going out tonight.
Right.
But Ash and I were like, we got to go try something.
The clouds broke. Yeah, the clouds broke and we were like, we got to go into the park and get some good pictures and stuff.
And because it's island in the sky at the very top level, you don't really have to worry about the flash flooding like you do in other areas of the
just
park.
the lightning.
Yes, just the lightning.
Just the lightning will kill you up here.
So we get to the parking area, everything's really wet, and we start the hike. But like just as we get to the cliff's edge, it's like the clouds broke and we had like a Lion King moment where like the beams of light were shining on the red rocks and there was purples and blues and there was reds.
Sunset. It was like golden hour sunset. So the lighting was really warm.
Yeah.
And it was the most beautiful view I've ever had.
And so we pulled out our fruit snacks and
popcorn. I had popcorn. Do you remember? Because I will never forget. We sat on the edge of the cliff and we watched the sunset while we ate popcorn.
Yeah.
It was the best movie I've ever seen.
It was magical. It was so good. So that was like the quintessential island in the sky moment for me.
And we've hiked that hike several times since then, more during the middle of the day or more in the mornings and stuff. It's good all the time. But I will say, sunset in this park, especially because a lot of people do leave, sunset is a really cool time to be there. Either at Island in the Sky or at Dead Horse Point State Park, which is right next to it.
Correct.
They're very close together, but both will give you really good sunsets.
Yeah.
And sunrises, I would imagine. We don't usually get up there for sunrise.
For Mesa Arch sometimes.
No, I've never been there for sunrise.
We've been there right after.
Yes.
So we go there right after the big rush.
I purposely avoid sunrise at Mesa Arch because there's a million people and I'm allergic to crowds. So no, thank you. But we do go there kind of right after that and it's beautiful. Anyway, so that in a nutshell, in a very small nutshell, is the Island in the Sky. The top layer where the pavement is.
Right.
That's what you're going to see in a day. Now, I put a pin in a viewpoint that we both really love, and that is the Schaefer Canyon viewpoint.
Yes, because this opens up a whole nother layer of adventure.
So we already did the nice 2024 playground stuff. Now we're venturing down into the 1980s.
Yes.
Into the death slide.
Or the spinny one where you try to get on and everybody tries to stay on as long as they can before they throw up or get flung off.
That's the merry-go-round. Yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm thinking
I called that earlier. And
you like merry-go-round. I guess I'm thinking of it like a theme park one with the horses going up and down.
No, I think we always call that merry-go-round. I think that's what it is.
I would like a fact check from the audience, please.
Oh my
gosh. The death spinner or is it the merry-go-round?
Okay. I like Death Spinner. That's a pretty cool name.
Okay,
so you get to the Schaefer Canyon Overlook, and what you're looking at it's called the Schaefer Trail, and it's a dirt road that goes down the cliffs to the next layer of canyon, which is the White Rim.
Which sounds really simple.
Yeah.
Just a road that takes you down from one layer to the next.
I still remember the first time I saw this, the very first time we went to Canyonlands, and I was like, who in their right mind would be driving that? Because it is terrifying to look at.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
It's right in the cliffs. It's like, it looks like if one wrong move, you're a goner. You're just going to fall right off because it's just switchbacking down these cliffs and it looks so scary. And you would see cars on it and it was like, I'm like a worrier. I'm the person who fabricates things that happen
Worst
before they actually happen. And so I'm like, well, what happens if you're driving down and someone else is driving up and you meet and there's nowhere to go because it's just a really narrow road and it's a cliff.
And eventually one of you just has to go off the cliff.
Yes.
You rock, paper, scissors it. And whoever loses is a goner.
That's how it feels. And that's what it looks like. So lo and behold, a few years after that, and we had gone to Canyonlands several times and stuff, and John is always like, let's drive the Schaefer Trail this time. And I'm like, no way, no how. You're crazy. I told you I would never do that. So we rented a Jeep a few years after that first time in Canyonlands. We rented our Jeep from Twisted Jeeps, which they are the best in Moab. We love them. And part of that Jeep rental was that we were going to take it on some backcountry roads which I'm not super excited about because I get really scared. But the Schaefer Trail was a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did end up taking a Jeep down the Schaefer Trail, which turned out to be one of the coolest experiences I've ever had
Oh my gosh.
in any national park.
Oh, it was amazing.
And we've done it more times since. Like, it's not something that we're like, maybe we shouldn't do that, or that was terrifying, never again.
Yeah.
It was like we got on there and it realized that the road is actually wider than it looks from above. And there are some pullouts, kind of. So you don't have to rock, paper, scissors it to the death.
Right. That was an awesome way to put that. But it is wider, but it is still an amazing feat of engineering.
It is.
Because you have this cliff literally just like built into the edge of the rock as it goes down to the next level. And so it is frighteningly on the edge.
Yeah.
It is frighteningly built, but it is so cool. So much adrenaline just pumps through you as you drive.
Yeah.
And it takes you down to the bottom layer or the next layer down, which then continues on to the White Rim Road.
And the White Rim Road is the ultimate adventure in Island in the Sky District.
Yes.
Like, it's 100-mile road and it's dirt. It's a 4x4 road that travels this White Rim layer. And so you're on the edge of other canyons that you saw from above, like Buck Canyon. You're driving right on the edge of that canyon. There's another arch down there. There's like the monster towers. There's like all this cool stuff you see as you're driving this road. Oh, you can see the river really good, the Colorado River really well from here.
You can pull right up to the edge of the White Rim, park your Jeep like right on the edge, and then just like peer over and think, I really hope that this rock doesn't shift.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a long road and it's best done over a few days. So there are little campsites down here. A lot of people bike this road.
Yes.
And so you'll get like full brigades of mountain bikers down here with their support vehicle and just bikers.
Yeah.
I'm not a biker, so I don't do that. But we do drive it in the Jeep. And especially, like, there's one part, actually, where you can go down from the White Rim layer down to the next layer, which is the river.
Yes, Lathrop Canyon.
You can go to Lathrop Canyon and you can get down there and stand at the edge of the river if you want to do that. All in all, if you don't have time to spend a couple days out here, you can do a shortened version, which we actually have a trail guide for on Dirt in My Shoes.
Right.
Of like this ultimate day trip of driving the Schaefer Trail, part of the White Rim Road, and then heading out to Moab on the Potash Road, which takes you to the Thelma and Louise spot where they like drive their car off the cliff into the river.
Right.
That part.
That place is so cool.
So it's gorgeous. Yeah, it's so pretty. And so
into the Goosenecks area.
There's so much cool stuff you can do down on this road. And you can make it a day trip and just stay out for, a few hours. Or you can make it overnight. We're out, we're camping. We're actually trekking this whole thing.
Yeah, and this is part of the high adventure, putting your own pizza together adventure. Yeah. Where you can, in Canyonlands, you can mountain bike on any public road. You can go on any of the paved roads and you can mountain bike on any of the dirt roads. This brings up a really interesting thought, probably for a lot of people, is the White Rim Road and going down the Schaefer Trail and things like that. Because if you look at the legend or on the map of Canyonlands, they have a distinction between two-wheel drive dirt roads and four-wheel drive dirt roads. Oh yeah,
you got to pay attention to all of that.
Yes, because so as I was like looking at the map and just kind of pondering a few things, it brought up, not one of my favorite shows, but it's probably, how like sometimes if you're watching daytime TV, you just kind of get hooked, you get sucked into something. This show was
that used to happen to me with the Kardashians.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to admit that, but like daytime being at home.
Right.
And sometimes it would be on and I'd be like, this is so bad, but it's so good.
Or Judge Joe Brown or Judge Judy.
Judge Judy.
Is he the father?
I don't know. Judge Judy.
Is he anyways, but this show was one of those shows that just sucked me in every time. And I'm talking about Top Gear. So Top Gear, the UK version or Top Gear USA. Either one, I just got sucked in. They were just super fun. Well, they did a couple of episodes that I absolutely love. The first one was they wanted to find out which classic American SUV was the toughest. And so they drove from Death Valley to Las Vegas One guy was driving a Chevy Blazer, one was driving a Ford Bronco, and the other one was a Jeep Wrangler. And officially the Chevy Blazer won, but if you watch the episode...
I remember seeing that episode and we were like, nah.
Depending on the driver,
Yeah.
the results could have been totally different.
Yeah.
Jeep probably would have won, but the Bronco was doing pretty good too. But they also did another episode. This episode, which probably has some relevance to what we're talking about, they wanted to drive from Monument Valley to Moab. What made it interesting is they wanted to see if you really need a 4x4 vehicle.
On those roads that say you need one?
Yes. And
Oh my gosh.
So what they did was they just went to the local car rental agency.
Oh my gosh.
And they got 3 cars that were pretty popular car rentals. One was a Lincoln Town Car, one was a Toyota Yaris, and the other one was a Ford Mustang, a V6.
Oh my God. There's no way.
And so you just watch this episode and they're just taking these cars as best they can. And you realize, because people, I think if you look at the Schaefer Trail, because we've been driving back and forth on that road a few times and we see people in vehicles that are not 4x4
Last time
vehicles.
we saw someone in a minivan.
Right.
And we were in our truck.
And they stopped us to ask us, do you think we'll be okay?
Yeah.
And I was like,
no.
let me tell you about this Top Gear episode.
No. Don't do that.
What happens at the end of the episode, the Yaris and the town car make it through, but the Mustang gets totally destroyed. But it's not because it's a worse car. It's because the guy literally pushed it off a cliff and he like attached some like hang glider wings to it to hide it, try to make it to the next layer. Anyways, it got totally trashed.
Oh my gosh.
But I was watching a commentary on the episode and the hosts of the show were like, we did give the keys back to the rental car people just as a joke, but our lawyers had to like buy the cars
Oh my gosh.
just to be cool about stuff. But those cars got trashed. They got so trashed. And so like for
I'm
this,
surprised they even made it because it can get super gnarly.
well, I think that there's this where the Mustang got destroyed. The town car, they literally kind of just like, he used a rock to anchor it as it tried to like fall down a cliff.
Oh my gosh.
And then another one, the Yaris, they like had to use a crane to lift it down from one to the other.
No, that's cheating.
Yeah, that's
Totally cheating.
But a lot of these areas were places where you can take like these really souped up, twisted Jeeps.
Right.
And so that's why they had to use these specialized equipment or tie some wings onto a Ford Mustang. And so anyways, the moral of the story and what I'm trying to illustrate is don't take your regular car on the White Rim Road.
That's a very important distinction. It is. I'm glad
Yes.
you brought it up.
Don't
because-
even take it down the Schaefer Trail because the rocks could mess up your tires and things like that.
Well, and the Schaefer Trail doesn't look that bad
Right.
when you're looking at it besides just the cliffs of death, but like the actual road surface.
Yeah.
The dirt surface looks okay, but it's much more potholed and stuff as you actually get on it. So yeah, don't take your regular car there. You really do want to have something specifically. Like we'll take our truck on the Schaefer Trail, but not on the White Rim Road
Right.
because it's just, there are some really hairy spots where it's just, you need a Jeep, you need something better, or a truck that you don't mind if it gets a little banged up, which is
Exactly.
not our truck.
Which is not our
Our
truck.
truck is not something we want banged up. So,
And
yeah,
and you want to have good turning radius, which
Right.
sometimes
which our
during
truck
the
does not.
yes, and the cliffs of death on the Schaefer Trail, sometimes those little switchbacks where you turn can get really tight.
We had to back up a few times and do a couple point turns on
Yes.
some of those switchbacks.
But this is the threshold to like super adventure.
Yeah.
Right here is this Schaefer Trail.
Yeah.
And so it's such a cool spot. But yes, all of the other stuff in the island in the sky is so much fun. But once you dip below the very top pavementy section, you can mountain bike, you can Jeep, and all around the island in the sky section along the White Rim Road is some of the most popular places for rock climbing.
Yeah.
As well. And so you have all of these giant sandstone towers that have some of the funnest, most amazing rock climbing routes. And they have some amazing names too, by the way, like Super Ninja Chipmunk or River Pirates or In Search of Suds and
Nice.
Trad Badger. You know, you have all these super fun like rock climbing routes. And it's all centered around Island in the Sky.
Yeah. I will put a disclaimer on this as well, though. If you're going to drive the White Rim Road, you have to have a permit
Yes.
from the park. So it's not that hard to get as far as like the actual process. It is a little bit competitive, but you do need that permit if you're going to drive on the White Rim. If you're just going to drive on the Schaefer Trail, go down and then meet up with the Potash Road, which is down there as well. Like you turn one way to go to the White Rim and the other way to go to the Potash. Then you don't need the permit.
Right.
If you don't do the White Rim. But do the White Rim while you're down there. You
absolutely.
should, but just get the permit. So that's the Island in the Sky District.
And wow, how cool is that?
Wow. If that's all you do in Canyonlands, you would need 2 days to do the pavement plus the day trip on the White Rim Road. If that's all you do, great.
Yes.
Great. You will have seen some really, really cool stuff in Canyonlands. But now we go to
The sequel, The Needles District of Canyonlands.
nice.
The Return of the Canyonlands. I don't know.
The return of the Canyonlands.
Canyonland Strikes Back.
So most people go to the Island in the Sky. The Needles is the other district that actually has paved roads. Not very many.
Right. Nope.
Very many at all.
In and out, basically.
But so the Needles it's about an hour and a half from Moab. So you've got quite a drive. There's another part of the Needles. If you're planning on focusing on the Needles, you could also stay in Monticello, which is right down there. Not Monticello, by the way. That's a Utah pronunciation.
Is it really?
Monticello.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
because the house is Monticello.
Oh, Thomas Jefferson's.
But the town in Utah is Monticello.
That's right. Oh, they never made that connection ever
Yeah.
until just now.
No, a lot of people that aren't from Utah say Monticello. And I'm like, we don't pronounce it like that here. So
Oh my gosh, I
anyway,
love it.
Monticello, that's another town that you could base your Needles day out of if you don't want to stay in Moab and drive all the way down. But the Needles district is much quieter than the Island in the Sky.
Right.
Just by way of proximity to Moab and to Arches.
Right.
You got to drive if you want to get out here. So
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
you're driving for seemingly a very long time from Moab, and you cut in, and then you're driving for a very long time to the Needles.
Right.
This is all on paved roads.
Because you're not even driving on the perimeter of Canyonlands. You're like coloring way outside the lines here for these roads to get back into Canyonlands at a different section.
And what the Needles is, so now you are not above. You are not on the top layer of the canyons like you are at Island in the Sky. Now you're down. You're still in a layer because the river is below you, but you're on this layer and it doesn't really feel canyony when you're here.
Yeah.
That's not really the point of being here. The point of being here is to see the Needles, which are hoodoo-like formations, really. Like just big towers of rock.
Yeah. It's
that-
super cool.
yeah.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of two things. It reminds me of like the mushroom planet from Sonic the Hedgehog, where Eggman gets banished to at the end of the movie. But also, if you enjoy Mario Kart, a lot of these hoodoos kind of resemble the giant mushrooms on Mushroom Gorge.
That's one of my favorite levels.
I know. You're so good at it.
I'm so good at it.
You're so
I
good
know.
at it.
That's like the only one I can beat people on.
Yes, it's true. But if you kind of mix those two ideas, the mushroom planet with the Mushroom Gorge, that's kind of the Needles district in a lot of ways, especially when you're hiking through some of the trails I'm sure we'll talk about in just a second. But you're hiking through these narrow Indiana Jones canyons, and it's just so much fun.
Well, so there's really only one part of the Needles that I want to talk about in the limited time we have today.
Right.
I will say that in my Canyonlands itinerary, I show you how to spend a whole day in the Needles.
Right.
So there is other stuff to do. But I also say in this itinerary that if you don't, like if you want to hike, if you are here to hike, then just forget all the other stuff and just do this hike. Because it really, for me, is like one of my favorite hikes. I think it made your list.
Oh, it
At least
totally
one
did.
of these hikes when we ranked our favorite national park trails.
Yeah. Oh, Chesler Park or Druid Arch.
Yeah.
One of the two was
Yeah.
definitely on my list.
Okay, so both the Druid Arch Trail and the Chesler Park Trail start from the same trailhead in the Canyonlands Needles, and that's Elephant Hill. This is a dirt road to get to this trailhead.
Right.
So you leave the pavement pretty fast.
It is a two-wheel drive road.
It is a two-wheel drive road. You can get there most of the time in a regular car.
As long as it hasn't like rained hard recently,
Yeah.
then you'll be fine.
Yeah. So you're driving on this dirt road to the Elephant Hill Trailhead. If you don't stop driving when the road ends at the parking lot, then it turns into a 4x4 road that just looks so gnarly. I don't know why people even drive that. It looks so scary.
It looks awesome.
They go up and over the hill right there. But when you get to this little parking area, there's a couple of pit toilets. You park here, and there's just one place to start hiking.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a big trail sign with a map, and that's where you're going to start. And then from there, it really is kind of a choose your own adventure. Like I always tell people to start this trail, just start it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to go very far if you don't want to hike for miles and miles and miles, but you do need to start it because it just showcases the best of the Needles.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you can this place is honeycombed with different trails.
Yeah.
So you could go all lots of different directions, which is, it's so interesting to me because as I'm like looking at the map and as I'm like thinking back to my memories and all the intersecting trails, it's so funny that this is called the Needles and not the Maze.
Right.
In a lot of ways because
the Maze is the other district of death.
Right.
So, but we haven't really been to the Maze, so maybe the name the Maze for the Maze makes sense.
It does, but if you look at the roads and like the trails and stuff into the maze, they call it the maze, I think, because they recognize if you get off the road here, you're dead.
Yeah.
But so that's like on the map, there's only like one way in and one way out. And so, but if you look at the Needles, you have all these different options and things like that.
Well, because it's a really strong like 4x4 culture area here. There's a lot of backcountry roads that you can drive if you have the right vehicle. The Needles is full of stuff like that.
It's so cool. If you were to think of like the Lord of the Rings, this is a red rock Emon wheel, a labyrinth of razor sharp rocks, or Maze Runner, or Labyrinth the movie with David Bowie, or Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. That's what this place is. It's a labyrinth of trails and 4x4 roads.
That being said, so this might be, especially if you're not from the West, your first introduction to cairns as route finding material. Okay.
I only laughed because of a story I have with cairns.
Yes.
But yes, the cairns are very important.
Okay, so the cairns are those stacks of rocks. Oh, nothing perturbs me more than when people build cairns or knock down cairns that are used for actual route finding.
Correct.
Which in the Needles, they are used for actual route finding. If you mess with a cairn or you build a cairn, someone will get lost out there.
Right.
So you cannot do that.
Yes, because as you are hiking, you're looking for these things to guide you because the landscape is so, it is a maze.
Well, you're on slick rock and they can't dig a trail into slick rock.
Right.
Right? You're just hiking on top of the rock. And so you're hiking from cairn to cairn. You're looking for these cairns to get you across these rocks where a regular dirt trail is not. So it's a big deal. The other thing you'll find a lot right here is the cryptobiotic soil, which is living soil that keeps the nutrients in the ground for these desert plants to be able to grow and to live here.
Nutrients and water.
And it keeps the land from eroding as quickly. And so it holds the soil in place. So it's really important. And you'll see it. It's like these mounds of really dark, crusty soil. And you see that a lot on these trails in the Needles as well. And don't mess with it.
Right.
It takes hundreds of years to grow. It's so critical to this desert landscape. And people will just like walk through it like it's nothing. It's like,
Right.
no, don't touch it.
I know. It's super important. And the cairns that are placed strategically to guide people on specific trails to protect the landscape and to protect the people. Because this is also the landscape where 127 hours happened.
Yeah.
And so if you don't want to end up cutting off your own arm, then this is the place to respect the cairns, stay on the trail, and be prepared.
Yeah, so that's my disclaimer for hiking, especially here in the Needles. You'll notice that a lot as you hike. So you begin your trail, and you basically have what I think are two different really good options in this area. Like John said, it's kind of a maze of trails, but really the two that you're going to want to decide between, if you're looking for a longer hike, is either Druid Arch or Chesler Park.
Right.
And Druid Arch, That's the first long trail we did in the Needles.
It was a great beginning.
It had been on my bucket list for so long. Druid Arch is like double the height of Delicate Arch in Arches.
Yeah.
And it's a mean looking arch.
Yeah.
It
It's
really
super
does.
cool.
It's like something, it's like, I don't know the words, but those walkers in Star Wars. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I love that reference. Yeah, they're called walkers.
Oh, I was right. Okay. I was going to say Skywalkers. And then I was like, oh, nope, that's a different character.
Nope, exactly. No, that's awesome.
But that's kind of what it reminds me of. It's like these giant, like a leg here and a leg here. And
Dagosh, 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 dagosh. As it walks. It's such a good, yeah.
so that trail is really cool. But basically, if you do that trail, you're just looking to get to Druid Arch.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's kind of the same. There are some obstacles you have to go, like you have to scramble up some rocks and you have to climb up a ladder. It's really adventurous.
It's super fun.
Super cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, your main goal for that one is to get to the arch. It's the arch or bust.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, the Chesler Park Loop, that one's more suited for if you don't want to be all like hiking all day. If you actually want like a stopping point that's not 12 miles long.
Right.
So if you do think that you're just going to hike for a minute and just like shorten the trail at some point, you're not going to do the whole Chesler Park Loop, you're not going to cover all the mileage that it takes to get out to Druid Arch or whatever, then I would go the Chesler Park Loop and just stop when you're ready and turn back.
Exactly.
Or do the whole thing. We just did the whole thing with our kids, which is why John was laughing about the cairns because it was on that trail.
Oh my gosh. So the Chesler Park Loop is like 12 miles, the whole thing. And I made my kids a deal, and I didn't realize how expensive this was going to be at the beginning. I told them, listen, there's going to be a lot of cairns on here, and sometimes you're looking for good ways to motivate your kids to hike without complaining and to keep them engaged. Well, what I told them I would do is I told them I would give them a penny, each of them a penny, for every cairn that they found. And so they hiked in front. They were briskly walking, and they were happily counting all of the cairns along the way. And it ended up being 600 and something cairns.
I know. And John was like, oh, it's a good thing I didn't say 5 cents. That's what I was going to say. It's like,
Yes, I know. 1 penny, they thought, and I thought that I was lowballing them.
yeah.
Both parties realized this is pretty cheap. But as the day wore on and we were getting into the dollars and more, I was like, oof, man, I lucked out. I was thinking I'll offer them a nickel or a dime for every cairn. That could have been
$60 for doing a hike.
Exactly.
They would have been thrilled. But they counted cairns. You can hike the Chesler Park Loop. There's like a viewpoint you can stop at, which I think is like 5 miles round trip-ish to go to that viewpoint. Like I said, though, you can stop before that if you want. There's like a little slot canyon that you hit like 3 miles round trip. But yeah, that one's more suited for if you're just like, we're not going to be out here for 10 miles. We just want to get a taste. Then I would start on that one. Like I said, the beginning of both trails is the same. You branch off a couple of miles in and choose your route. It's a really cool hike, the Chesler Park Loop.
Yeah.
And you don't really have necessarily like a specific destination. It's just you're in the Needles. You're surrounded by the Needles. They're above you. They're towering over you.
Around you.
You also get really cool, like long views of the Needles.
Yep.
And then you kind of circle around what's known as Chesler Park, which is the middle. It's like, I don't know, a big middle field with some rocks in it.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of interesting that way. But yeah, it is kind of surrounded. But in a lot of ways, it's like sometimes you just don't know what's around the turn.
Yeah, well, and it's very adventurous. That's really the name of the game on these two hiking trails, both Druid Arch and Chesler Park, is it's very adventurous.
Oh, yes.
So you feel like you're just accomplishing something.
Yeah.
And having a big adventure at the same time. Like you're searching for something, or you're Indiana Jones, or that's how it feels.
Yes.
On either of these trails. So yeah, as you're hiking around Chesler Park, like you're going around the loop, and here's the slot canyon here, and here we have to, or in my case, I have to get down on my bum and scoot for a minute.
A lot of scooting.
And so it's a really big, fun adventure. And as you're circling Chesler Park towards the end of the loop, or the beginning if you want to go the other direction, you'll hit the joint. which is a really big slot canyon in there. Super cool.
It's really fun.
We have a video. So John was taking a video of me hiking through it for Instagram, and a mouse was following me. Like, he's like, oh my gosh, Ash, you gotta watch this. And I'm hiking, like, ta-da, this is so cool. And there's a mouse right behind me, following me.
It's like Peter Pettigrew. It was so funny.
It's pretty creepy.
Let me pull out the Marauders map. Let's see who it is.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it was great.
So there are mice on that trail. I have video evidence.
Yes, we are not alone.
It's a really cool area to explore. So as far as the Needles is concerned, like I said, if you only have one day in the Needles, you should plan on hiking from the Elephant Hill trailhead, at least for some portion of the day.
Correct.
If you can go further, do. And just plan on spending most of your day on the trail.
Right.
If you don't want to go further and you want to do a little bit of the trail and then you want to head back, you can go to like Pothole Point. You can go to Cave Spring.
You can go see the wooden shoe.
Roadside Ruin. There's some smaller stuff you can do to fill up the rest of your day.
Right.
Like I said, I have a whole itinerary schedule that will help you fill your whole day. But really, hiking should take priority in the Needles.
Yes. Because that's the high adventure part of the Needles for me, personally.
Yeah.
Like we talked about with Island in the Sky, you can do the stuff on the pavement at the very top. There's some really pretty hiking up there, but you get the adrenaline when you dip down below with the mountain biking, the 4x4, the rock climbing. Here at Needles, for me, is the most adrenaline and heart-pumping hiking.
Because it's not regular hiking.
Correct.
It's not just a nice trail in the mountains. Like I said, there's bum scooting involved. So it just feels really adventurous. So highly recommend that. And then as you're leaving the Needles, there's also Newspaper Rock, which is on your way out, which is a huge panel of petroglyphs.
It's so
just
cool.
Amazing. And that's roadside. You don't have to do anything else but park. But definitely stop there while you're in this area as well.
But then you have just two other areas of the park that almost nobody ever visits.
Well, and truthfully, we have not. You've done some rafting on the rivers.
Right. I have done some rafting on the rivers, which is one of my favorite ways to experience the park.
We have not done Cataract Canyon, which is like the really scary part of the rivers.
Yes. That's after the confluence, and that's after the two rivers combine forces. And you just have these amazing series of rapids that just go for a long time.
John wants to do that. I am undecided. Part of me thinks it would be really cool, and the other part of me is thinking that might be my limit at Canyonlands. It's like, I'll do a nice river float on the Green River.
Yes.
Below Island in the Sky, but I do not know if I am good with hitting those rapids.
One day, I will get Ash on the river. We will go through Cataract Canyon, and it will be amazing. But yeah, that's at the very bottom layer of Canyonlands National Park. That's the river, and that's the other heart-pumping fun adventure that you can have. And so another way that you need to kind of make your own pizza is enjoying the river, which is super fun.
And then beyond the river, you have the Maze District, which is on the other side of the river. You can only access this through really, hard dirt roads.
You've got to be really motivated to get here.
What they say, and this is why we've not done it. Maybe one day we'll take a tour or something. I would feel okay with that. But what they say is that if you get stranded out here, it costs like $3,000 to get you out.
Right.
And that's assuming they can find you. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just this network of dirt roads, 4x4 roads that go through this area, and breakdowns are common. Like, getting lost is common. And so it really is for the experts, which is why we've not done it. We are not experts.
Right. So we've mentioned Twisted Jeeps earlier, which is where we rent our Jeeps when we go down there. They have this, I follow them on Facebook, and they share this post every year. It's like the same time every year. And it's basically like a picture of a Jeep that's like nose down in like a giant pothole.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, this is what I did this morning. And we went out and got the Jeep out. They had to, anyways, but I'm just like, I'm not quite ready for that yet.
No, we're not. Maybe we will take a tour sometime, because I do think it would be cool to see. But that's not any area of Canyonlands that we have any expertise.
There are no paved roads, no easy access to that area.
Yeah. But that, I mean, again, like just the possibility of that, though. It's like, oh, Canyonlands is so cool.
It's so cool.
There's one other spot, actually, that is part of Canyonlands that isn't a district.
It's a little bit detached from the main body of Canyonlands on the northwest side.
And we have been here before, and it's called Horseshoe Canyon. It's dirt roads to get out here. The dirt roads weren't terrible, but not great either.
They are. There is a couple of ways.
It probably says two-wheel to get out there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Take it at your own risk. But basically, you drive these dirt roads out to this canyon called Horseshoe Canyon, and you hike down into this canyon. It's like, I think it's like 7 miles round trip or so to do this hike. And you see like dinosaur tracks along the way, but the real reason you're down there is to see just these huge petroglyphs and pictographs.
Oh my gosh.
From the Native Americans that used to live in the area. And
expansive panels
huge,
of them.
Well, and like life size.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Usually you see little drawings, right? But like the figure down in this canyon that's known as the Holy Ghost's unofficial title, it's a white petroglyph. I think it's a petroglyph. It might be a pictograph.
Right. I'm not exactly
I can't
sure.
remember.
But it's like 6 feet tall.
It is.
It's as big as me.
It's really tall, and it's just so impressive. It's really cool. So,
and it's not the only one. It's like surrounded on all sides by some really cool similar ones.
Yeah.
And they're just all massive and amazing. But it is like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where it's the Canyon of the Crescent Moon, when Petra in the movie right there. And you hike down into this canyon, and it's a super cool adventure, following this little creek at some points, passing dinosaur tracks, and up on the cliff walls every once in a while you can see some smaller panels, and then finally you get to the grand finale, which is the Holy Ghost and all of the other ones next to it.
It's amazing. So again, an off-road adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Got to work to get here, which is probably good. I feel that way about Native American stuff, where it's just like, you can't trust people to take care of it.
So you got to make it a 4x4 road to get there.
Yeah.
Or at least a dirt road.
So you have to really appreciate what you're seeing if you're going to go out there. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully you're not the idiot who draws on top of it or something, or tries to carve your own name into the rock. Like, if you're that person, you are not allowed at Horseshoe Canyon. I forbid it.
Yes, exactly. But this landscape, just like a lot of the other landscapes in Canyonlands, is super harsh. Like you mentioned, it is hard to get to. And a lot of this stuff is the put your own adventure together. And so you do need to be prepared. You need to bring a ton of water. You need to make sure before you leave anywhere, you have a full tank of gas. You have preparations for food and medical basic necessities.
Well, and that's another thing we didn't really talk about, but Canyonlands has like no amenities.
Right.
There are not hotels in Canyonlands. There are not restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
You pack everything you need for the day and you bring it with you,
right,
or you're not eating. They do have visitor centers. The Island in the Sky Visitor Center is not great. The Needles one is much better. It's much nicer.
Yes.
So that's where we like to buy our souvenirs. So you go into the Island in the Sky and you're like, oh, I just walked into a closet. Nice. It's a tiny visitor center, but it does have bathrooms.
It does have bathrooms.
And it does have water. So I guess that's the most important thing.
Yes.
But yeah,
But yeah, you got to be prepared. Drink tons of water when you come to this park. Like Ash said, whatever, if you don't bring it, you don't eat it. And so full tank of gas, tons of water. It gets really hot. And so be prepared for that with hats and sunscreen and things like that too. But this place is just so amazing. Oh my gosh, we just talked about 4 different districts plus, the Horseshoe Canyon area. This place, if you can put it together, this is like the pizza. You can put like inches of cheese and pepperoni on, man. You can put so much stuff on your pizza.
I like the pizza metaphor. It was very good.
Thank you.
But it's like a build your own adventure. Mm-hmm. And you never know what you're going to get. And it's different every time. Right. So that's why we find ourselves at Canyonlands over and over, and no longer is an afterthought to Arches.
Right.
Arches has kind of become the afterthought to Canyonlands for us, because it's like, well, we need more days in Canyonlands because it's way bigger.
I know.
And there's way more stuff to do.
It's like the Brady Bunch. Marsha. Finally, now it's Canyonlands. It's my
Canyonlands is not our Peggy. So
We're mixing so many movies and shows. I love it.
Anyway, thank you for joining us on this special Exploring Canyonlands episode. Your task for today is to go to dirtandmyshoes.com and pick up the brand new Canyonlands itinerary.
Yes.
Use the code CANYON25. CANYON25 to get that 25% off.
In 2025.
Yes.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah, I know. So many ideas. So that's your task for today. Go pick it up. It's a really low price to experience a Dirt in My Shoes itinerary, to get in, to see what it's about, see what it is. I update them all the time, so it doesn't matter when you purchase, whether you have a plan to go there or not. Now is the time to do that. It's the cheapest it will ever be.
Mm-hmm.
So your task, dirtandmyshoes.com, click on trip itineraries, find the Canyonlands one, and put in the code CANYON25 to get 25% off to celebrate its release.
Yes. But thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully we made the case for Canyonlands. But if you're enjoying the podcast, if we convinced you to go here instead of Arches.
Instead of Arches. We love Arches too.
Go to both, but plan time for Canyonlands. So if you're enjoying the podcast, please give the Exploring the National Parks podcast a 5-star review. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for all of your support. And go get some really red dirt in your shoes.